So I'm curious,
Yeah.
how do you think about these different, one of the things that I think is often challenging for folks coming into the gig economy is like you have so many things to worry about, right? And I remember when I was writing my book for Uber and Lyft drivers, I really wanted to think about it like in an A to Z way, like, okay, what's realistic? Like realistically, you probably should buy a phone mount to start and, just put your phone on the mount. Second, consider rideshare insurance, then think about a dash cam, then think about tracking your miles, right? Like if you hit like a brand new driver who's just trying to like has maybe never even called an Uber before, like with everything that they technically need to do, you could imagine it's just overwhelming and not really feasible. So I'm sort of curious how you think about these different aspects. Like obviously healthcare is one that I'm curious what you guys have found, but I would imagine that it actually doesn't affect a ton of people in the gig economy, right? Because they've got sources of healthcare from their spouse or Medicare or Medicaid or VA. So I'm kind of curious what numbers, but obviously if you don't have healthcare, it's like very impactful to a smaller number of people would be my guess versus things like literally every single driver has to have insurance, right? And they've got to pay for it, or they've got to up, half of them sometimes upgrade to rideshare insurance. So how do you think about the different I guess benefits or features that you can kind of help your members with?
Yeah, you're right, right? You can't go make a delivery unless you have a vehicle or a bike,
Right.
depending on where you're delivering. And you got to have insurance if you want to go do that. You have to be cleared through the platform, right? And get a good background check in order to engage in that work. I'll start with healthcare, and then I'll talk
Yeah.
about taxes. You're right. Like you don't have to have insurance to go start a new gig. What we often see is, one, a lot of people who are entering the gig economy are doing so because they lost another job, right? Or they're missing another income stream. And we saw this especially so in 2020 and even into
Yeah.
2021, as a lot of people lost their jobs, right? We saw airline pilots going into delivery. We saw people who used to, work in a retail store or in a restaurant shift to
Yeah,
doing delivery,
definitely.
sometimes for that same retail or restaurant store. And folks were losing some of these benefits, going out and seeking an income. And in the wake of a global healthcare pandemic, lacking insurance. And so it's one of those things that it might be easy to skip over, but it's a really critical risk.
Yeah.
And we see almost a third of people in the gig economy going uninsured today, and that
Oh, wow. That's
terrifies
pretty
me.
high. Yeah.
Yeah, and the
That's
terrifying
really
thing,
high, actually.
or the very unfortunate thing, is that the number one people go uninsured is they think they can't afford it.
Mm.
And if you look at the Affordable Care Act and now the
Mm-hmm.
American Rescue Plan Act, you've got actually 4 out of 5 Americans qualify for coverage for less than $10 a month.
Mm.
And we're now getting almost half. We have 44% of people who are getting insured in 2021 on fully fledged major medical insurance are paying $1 or less. So almost for
Wow.
free.
So
So there's kind of no excuse.
how specifically does that work? Because I think that, we have, talked about this and sort of this is one of the things that we highlight to a lot of people. So it totally resonates with me is that, sometimes like people don't even know that they can get it, right? It seems like that education part is the challenge. So what are like the specifics of how that works and sort of who qualifies and, how do I get to pay $1 a month for my insurance? Who do I need to be? What do I need to do?
Yeah. So the only thing that really depends on is how much you earn.
Yeah.
Right. So if anyone wants to go right now to stridehealth.com,
Mm-hmm.
You can enter your zip code, give us your age, your gender. We don't track any of this. You can do it anonymously and put in your income.
Yeah.
And we'll also look at your doctors and your drugs and help you make a decision that way. But when you put in your income, you'll see how much you can save on coverage.
Yeah.
The Affordable Care Act created these things called tax credits that you can spend in real time. So if your health insurance costs $500 a month and you qualify for $499 in tax credits, you're only going to get charged $1. So that's really all it comes down to is how much you're earning. And what we saw with the American Rescue Plan, which came out just earlier this year, again, in the wake of the pandemic, was that they increased the tax credits available. So more people qualify for tax credits. Before, if you made over, say, $45,000 a year, you didn't qualify for anything. Now we see freelancers making $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year qualify for some form of tax credit. So that's how it starts. We help you on Stride. We can take care of that for you. You can also go to a government exchange and do it that way. We think we do it. a bit of a better
Well,
job and
I
hold your
guess what's
hands with all these
interesting
things.
too, and is the kind of big, what's the word? The big, not caveat, but the big important thing that we like takeaway we've seen for drivers. Like if you're really aggressive, or not even aggressive, I mean, just like tracking all your miles. Obviously Stride has a mileage tracking app that we're a big fan of, and we recommend to a lot of our users. I think we've signed up a lot of people. They can actually, like, your net income is actually ends up being pretty low, even though you might make pretty decent money as a driver or a delivery person. And then I think that's what the income that then goes and is used to determine, right? Because you're mentioning these numbers like 60, 70, 80,000. And I think after all of your expenses, it's going to be pretty hard at least like your taxable income, right? It's going to be pretty hard to get to that point in a good way, right? Like your
Yep.
actual income might be higher, but on net, it might be a lot lower. I remember one of the articles we did where Jay on our team earned over 100, he's in SF and driving 40, 50 hours a week, and earned over $100,000 on Uber and Lyft one year just from driving. And his net taxes were like $15,000 or $20,000. And he was much more on the aggressive side of taking deductions and all that. But yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yep. And so you can make, so you're right, it is based on your post or your taxable income.
Right.
So you can make twice what Jay made, and you're probably going to get still qualify for free health insurance in terms of your
Yeah.
taxable income. Which brings me to your, back to your question around what matters as you're getting started, right? What's day one, day 10, day 100 working in the gig economy? I think, obviously healthcare is foundational, and it's oftentimes just where people are when they're starting that type of work. They need that coverage. But your taxable income is tremendously confusing for people, right? And you're right. We have a free mileage tracking app because it's the number one way to save when you're working in the delivery economy. I mentioned realtors, same for them, right? A ton of miles you put in your car. But if you're delivering, you're driving all day, every day. And what we found is, yes, people can actually get, they can get refunds, right? Especially if you're driving a Prius or another very efficient vehicle, based on the mileage reimbursement. Track every single mile. And if you don't start on day one, you're missing out. And so I put that right up there with, get your car, get your insurance, and track mile one.
Yeah.
Because, you're getting back 50 plus cents every time you drive in terms of your taxable wages. And in California, where we have Prop 22 now, you and I might debate that in a moment or two, you actually get a mileage reimbursement, but you can still deduct your mileage, right? That's confusing for a lot of folks, but you can do that. And so I think it's one of the biggest opportunities to increase your profitability as a rideshare or delivery driver. And I'll share a stat with you that, Harry, we haven't shared anywhere else.
All right,
I just checked. We have tracked well over 4 billion miles for delivery workers now. And that's free money back in your pocket if you know how to handle that well. And it ties, as you pointed out so eloquently, right over your healthcare and your benefits. The better job you do deducting your expenses, the lower your premiums are going to be for things like your healthcare. And obviously, the more profitable your gig work is going to be.